All right, let's talk about hosting Drupal on AWS. Amazon Web Services gives you this incredible amount of power, right? But with all that power comes a ton of options, and figuring out the right way to go can feel like you're lost in a maze. So we're going to dive in and clear things up.
So that's the big question, isn't it? What is the best path for hosting your Drupal site on AWS? It's something developers, teams, and business owners are all trying to figure out.
And here's the thing. The answer isn't a specific service or some magic formula. The best path for you really just boils down to one simple thing. How much of the heavy lifting, the nitty-gritty operational work are you and your team actually prepared to do yourselves? That's the fundamental trade-off we're going to unpack.
So first, let's just get a lay of the land, which, like I said, can really feel like a maze. We're going to look at all the different paths you can take, from super simple one-click setups all the way to these complex enterprise-level architectures. Each one has its own rewards, but also its own challenges.
Okay, to make sense of this maze, we're going to use a little metaphor, the AWS ladder. We'll start at the very bottom with the easiest, most accessible options, and then we're going to climb our way up, rung by rung, to the most powerful and most complex solutions at the very top.
So, these first few rungs on our ladder, they're all about getting you up and running fast. These are your entry-level choices, and they are perfect for spinning up a quick project, maybe a demo or a prototype. They're super accessible, but, and this is a big but, they come with some pretty serious limitations.
Okay, so let's break this down. On one side, you've got AWS Lightsail. This thing is awesome for freelancers or small projects. It's super easy and the cost is predictable, which is great. On the other side, you have Marketplace AMIs. Think of them as pre-built server images from companies like Bitnami. You can launch a Drupal server in literally minutes, which is amazing for a proof of concept. But take a look at the cons column. Neither of these is really built for the big leagues. They're not for enterprise scale, they don't have a real development workflow, they're just starting points, not the final destination.
Right, let's keep climbing. We're moving up to what we'll call the pro level. Now, these options are going to give you total, granular control over everything. But here's the catch. That total control comes with total responsibility for building, managing, and fixing everything yourself.
And this slide really shows you the two ends of that pro spectrum. On one hand, you can manually deploy on EC2, which is Amazon's service for virtual servers. This is pure do-it-yourself. You build it all from scratch, which gives you incredible flexibility. But it's also a mountain of operational work. Then on the other hand, you've got the AWS Reference Architecture. This is like a professional blueprint for a massive, high-traffic Drupal site. It's incredibly powerful, but you're going to need some serious DevOps and AWS architect-level skills to even get it off the ground, let alone manage it.
And here we are, at the very top of the ladder, the Expert Summit. This is where we get into containerization. We're talking about technologies like Docker and Kubernetes. Now, this approach gives you unbelievable scale and flexibility, but it also represents the absolute peak of complexity on our climb.
So here, we're looking at Amazon's two main ways to run containers. You've got ECS, which is Amazon's own system, great if your team is already deep in the AWS world. Then there's EKS, which is Amazon's version of Kubernetes, the big open source standard. And here's the key takeaway. EKS gives you the ultimate power, the ultimate flexibility, but it comes with what the source material calls a massive maintenance burden. Seriously, this is not for the faint of heart. You need expert-level Kubernetes know-how.
Okay, so we've climbed this whole ladder. We've seen options that give us just immense power and control, but there's a hidden cost to this climb. There's a catch that most people don't see until they're way deep in the weeds. And that is the huge, nonstop operational work that's required.
Yeah, this isn't about just setting it up once. This is the real work, the day-in, day-out grind of just keeping a production website alive and healthy. We're talking about constant updates and patching, setting up backups and disaster recovery plans, configuring logging and monitoring, hardening all your security. Oh, and you have to build your entire CI/CD pipeline from scratch. The list just goes on. And with these native AWS tools, every single one of these things is on you.
And this slide just drives that point home perfectly. Just look at the columns. For almost every single path on that AWS ladder we just climbed, from a manual server to the most complex container setup, who handles the patches? You. Who handles the scaling? You. Who builds the deployment pipeline? Yep, you again. This just puts it in black and white. You're signing up for a massive, ongoing responsibility.
So if climbing that ladder and taking on all that work yourself sounds frankly exhausting, what's the alternative? Well, this brings us to a totally different way of thinking about it. Instead of a ladder that you have to climb step by painful step, imagine an automated escalator. And that's what a platform like DevPanel is.
So what does this escalator do exactly? Well, check out this number. It automates 80 to 90% of all that manual operational work we just saw on that scary list. I mean, think about that. That's a huge number, and it has a massive impact on your team's sanity and focus.
And let's be really clear what automation means here. The source material puts it plainly. DevPanel fully automates the entire Drupal software development lifecycle, or SDLC. That's the whole shebang, the entire process from a developer writing a line of code to that code actually being live for your users. It's not just about launching a server, it's the whole workflow.
So what does this automated workflow actually look like in the real world? Well, it's actually beautifully simple. A developer pushes their code to a new Git branch. Instantly, DevPanel spins up a complete, isolated preview environment just for that branch. The rest of the team can test it out, and once everyone's happy, you just merge the branch, and that automatically and safely deploys the code to production. It's a modern, automated, Git-driven process.
Now here's a really important point. This is automation, not some black box that locks you in. DevPanel runs inside your own AWS account, which means you keep full ownership and control of your infrastructure. No vendor lock-in. It just automates that whole development lifecycle, bakes in all the best practices for you, like backups and security, and you even get access to expert support if you need it.
Okay, so we've climbed the ladder, we've checked out the escalator, now let's put it all together so you can figure out which path is actually the right one for you.
If you're a freelancer or a solo developer and you're working on smaller projects, the advice is pretty clear. Just start simple. Seriously, don't over-engineer it. AWS Lightsail or one of those Marketplace AMIs will get you up and running fast and keep your costs down.
Now, for agencies, it's a different story, right? You're juggling multiple clients, multiple sites, and your team needs to be efficient. Here, the source suggests looking at something like DevPanel, specifically because it's built to handle things like team collaboration, managing many sites, and that automated preview feature, all things that solve agency headaches at scale.
And finally, for the big leagues, the huge high-traffic enterprise projects, you've got two main high-end choices. If you already have a big DevOps team and you need that absolute fine-grained control over every little thing, then the AWS Reference Architecture is your blueprint. But if you want all those same enterprise-grade results but with all the best practices and expert support already built in and automated, then DevPanel is the recommended way to go.
And that really brings us to the final thought. After looking at all of these options, from the do-it-yourself ladder to the automated escalator, the decision really boils down to this one simple question. Are you in the business of managing complex cloud infrastructure, or are you in the business of building amazing websites for your customers? Because the right path for you really starts by answering that question honestly.